On the morning of the 14th of March 2016, a construction crew drives to an abandoned house in Antwerp, Ohio. Their task for the day is simple: demolish an old garage. As they step out of their vehicle, what they see in the yard makes everything stop. "We just pulled in," a shaky voice says in the 911 call. "We're actually here to tear down a garage today and, there's a dead person in the yard." This is not Halloween decorations, not a cruel prank. Lying in the grass of a house no one lives in is the body of a woman. She has been shot in the head. One of her fingers is pierced, a defensive wound from someone who tried to block a bullet. Who did this? And why was her body left here, at an abandoned house no one seems to know about? The investigation that follows will take police across 2 states, through surveillance footage, through a web of lies, and ultimately, to a gun still in the killer's hands. To understand this story, we need to know about Wilma Schwarz. Wilma, 44 years old, was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana. She was once part of the Amish community when she was younger, a simple, peaceful life, removed from the outside world. But Wilma's life changed when she met Daniel Zerbe. They had a son together, Benjamin, a little boy Wilma loved more than anything in the world. People who knew Wilma say she was a devoted mother who always put her son first. But the relationship between Wilma and Daniel was not as good as it appeared. "We knew Schwartz and Zerbe had been in a relationship for several years," Sheriff Jason Landers would later say, "and it wasn't good." Not good is putting it lightly. Over the years, the relationship went through cycles of being okay, then falling apart, filled with conflict and drugs. Daniel had a criminal history involving methamphetamine. Wilma also had a record theft, trespassing. But no matter what, Wilma kept trying. She tried for Benjamin. On the 9th of March 2016, Wilma didn't show up to pick her son up from school. That wasn't like Wilma at all. She was always there for Benjamin. Always. When a neighbor didn't see Wilma show up, they reported her missing. 5 days pass. No word from Wilma. Police search. Family members call, but no one knows where she is. Until the morning of March 14th, when that construction crew drives up to the abandoned house at 10488, Road 1, Antwerp, Ohio. The house has been foreclosed on. No one lives there. It sits right on the Ohio-Indiana state line, a perfect place to dump something you don't want anyone to find. But they did find her. "There's a dead person in the yard." Those words would trigger an investigation that would stretch on for months, cross 2 state lines, and uncover the dark secrets one man tried desperately to bury.
Yeah, we're actually tearing down a garage today, and there's a dead man in the yard.
Oh, okay.
Road 1.
Road 1.
Antwerp, Ohio. Yeah, like we backed in and it's our vehicle, and it's like an abandoned. I mean, there's no one living in the house. That it's a foreclosed home. That
Stand by for a minute, the officer says into his radio as he steps out of the patrol car. The construction crew stands back, faces pale. They had called 911 just minutes earlier, but now they can't bring themselves to look toward the backyard. "Are you sure?" the officer asks. "Yes, I think if you look at her clothes, I think it looks like..." Officer Shane moves closer. Lying in the grass is the body of a woman, small in stature, long hair still there, but everything else is unmistakable. This is a homicide. Based on the size, a detective would later explain, she appeared to be a small-framed woman with long hair. It was pretty clear this was a female body lying there. "Do you have gloves?" one officer asks. "Yes. I don't want to move her." They don't need to move her to see what happened. "Look at her finger," one officer says. Do you see her finger, Shane? It looks like it was shot straight through. One of the victim's fingers has a horrific wound. The bullet went directly through it. This isn't a random injury. This is a defensive wound. After examining the victim, the detective explains, she had what appeared to be a defensive wound. It looked like one of her fingers had been shot, like someone raising their hand to block a gun. Wilma Schwarz tried to protect herself. She saw it coming. She tried to stop it. But the bullet went through her finger and into her head. This wound is clear evidence that she was shot in the head. Police call the coroner to the scene. They also contact BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, to send a forensic team to assist with processing the scene. But one major question still remains. Was the 911 caller involved?
You guys were just here to tear down the garage?
Typically, the 911 caller can be the offender or a suspect, the detective explains. So we have to talk to the caller and the people who were with him at the time to get a good sense of whether he was involved or not. So you guys are just here to demolish the garage, right? Yes. When was the last time you were here? The answer matters. How long had the body been here? 4 or 5 days at most, it looks like, an officer says after examining the scene.
Hey, Shane. 4 or 5 days max, it looks like. Came with you today.
4 to 5 days. That means Wilma was killed and dumped here not long after she was reported missing on March 9th. The construction crew explains they had been here a few days earlier to winterize the house, checking to make sure everything was okay. When they arrived today, they noticed something in the yard that hadn't been there before.
And then do the other one with the other side. If you can hold them both, that keeps us from touching them. Then if you just hold them for a few seconds while they dry, then have them drop them in the envelope.
So,
They thought it might be Halloween decorations or a prank or something someone had thrown onto the property, since it was abandoned and no one lived there, and they walked over to check it out. And that's when they realized that it was a dead person. Police asked the construction crew to provide DNA samples to rule them out of the investigation. They agree immediately. They're not suspects. But if it wasn't them, then who was it?
Brain matter on the far side.
Yep. Missing upper front tooth. Now her mouth's closed, so you get a picture of that grass. See that grass is going that way? All right. Huh? Oh yeah, that's going that way.
Almost looks like there's some drag marks.
Yeah, see that? Yeah, see her shoes are all muddy.
While the forensic team processes the scene in Antwerp, police begin searching for clues to identify the victim.
They got a 50 or a 44-year-old that looks really rough. 5'1", blonde hair.
That's her.
It's missing.
She looks bone thinny, bone skinny.
Yeah, she's real thin. Yep. Yep.
That's her.
It doesn't take long to confirm it. This is Wilma Schwarz. The 44-year-old woman reported missing 5 days earlier. The next question is, where is her car? 2 days after the body is found, police locate Wilma's vehicle abandoned in a parking lot in Markle, Indiana, about 40 miles from where her body was discovered. When detectives approach the vehicle, they can tell immediately this isn't an ordinary abandoned car. Inside, there are traces of blood. On the seats, on the dashboard, dark red stains. Someone tried to wipe away but couldn't completely remove. And lying on the floor between the front seats is an empty 9mm shell casing. We determined that Schwarz was shot inside her vehicle by Zerby, Sheriff Landers would later explain. The picture starts to come into focus. Wilma was shot and killed inside her own car. After that, the killer moved her body to the abandoned house in Antwerp, dumping her in the yard like trash. Then he drove the car to Markle, tried to clean away the evidence, and abandoned it there. But he made one mistake. He didn't clean everything up. Inside the vehicle, detectives find 2 cell phones. One of them, on March 9th, the day Wilma disappeared, pinged cell towers near the area where her body was later found in Antwerp. That phone was there, at the crime scene, on the day of the murder. But the owner of the phone can't be identified right away. No name, no registration, just location data. But police have another lead, a much more important one. A surveillance camera in the Markle parking lot captured everything, and what it shows will break the case wide open. On the surveillance footage, a car pulls into the parking lot. It's Wilma's vehicle. 2 people step out, a man and a woman. The man is Daniel Zerbe, Wilma's boyfriend. The woman is Lisa King, an acquaintance of Daniel's. They leave Wilma's car behind and walk over to another vehicle that's waiting nearby. That vehicle is driven by Leroy Zerbe, Daniel's brother. We located surveillance footage showing Wilma Schwarz's boyfriend, Daniel Zerbe, along with a woman later identified as Lisa King, abandoning her vehicle in the parking lot. Leroy would later tell police that he drove Daniel and Lisa to a hotel in Auburn, Indiana. Detectives also uncover additional surveillance footage showing Daniel purchasing cleaning supplies at a local store. The full picture is now clear. Daniel Zerbe shot Wilma Schwarz inside her car. He transported her body to Antwerp and dumped her in the yard of an abandoned house. Then, with the help of Lisa King, he returned and drove the car to Markle. He bought cleaning supplies, tried to erase the evidence, and abandoned the vehicle. But to make an arrest, police needed more than that. They needed the gun. Lisa King knows something. Police are certain of that. She was in the car. She helped Daniel abandon it. And now, she's sitting in an interrogation room, facing the possibility of being charged as an accessory to murder. But detectives also know Lisa isn't the killer. She's a witness. And if she tells the truth, she could be the key to bringing Daniel Zerbe down. The interview starts slowly. Lisa is nervous. She knows she's in trouble. But she also knows the truth. Detectives don't push. They explain. They listen. And little by little, Lisa begins to talk. She describes the relationship between Daniel and Wilma. A relationship filled with drugs, violence, and empty promises. She talks about March 9th, when Daniel called her and said he had made a mess of his life. Daniel called me and told me that he had made a mess of his life, Lisa recalls, and he just didn't think that she was gone. He didn't think she was gone. The words are vague, but the meaning is clear. Daniel is confessing. He's telling Lisa that Wilma is dead. Lisa asks him what happened. Daniel tells her it was all his fault. Whatever those people were using over there, it was trouble, and it was all my fault, Daniel says. Lisa knows what she needs to do. She calls Leroy, Daniel's brother, and tells him, "You should call the police." But before police can get involved, Daniel asks Lisa for help. And in a decision she will later regret, Lisa agrees.
What happened after that point?
Wilma came to me that night. She said, "Lisa, whatever happens with Daniel happens," but that's when she formally asked me if I would be there for her. All right. The next couple of days, I wound up going back over there. She was in definite fear.
Wilma. Yeah. Why do you say that?
Scared to death. I mean, it's just obvious.
So you, excuse me, you two had plans at that point. Might not have been definite plans, but you had plans at that point. In so many words, to get out of that crazy situation. Am I summing it up?
She helps Daniel drive Wilma's car to Markle. She stands by as he tries to clean away the evidence. She gets into the vehicle with Leroy when they leave. But now, sitting in the interrogation room, Lisa realizes she helped a killer.
The red car. Was there?
And detectives know exactly how to use that.
Passenger seat, yeah.
What was unusual?
There was a garbage bag over seat, and I asked him what happened, and he said he spilled chemicals in the car, and he had a couple bottles with him, and it reeked.
They offer her a deal. Tell the truth, and the charges against her could be reduced. Stay silent, and she could face years in prison for aiding and abetting and concealing evidence.
No, sir.
But there's something even more important.
No, sir.
At this point, that's all we have, the detective says. But you can make a difference. You can make a difference to bring some closure to that poor child.
I don't know. I'm scared.
Benjamin, Wilma's son. If nothing else comes from this, the detective says, he's going to walk into our office one day and say, I want to see my mom's case file. And do you know what he's going to see? I have them here, but they're too graphic. I won't show them to you. He's going to see photos of his mother dumped like trash. The detective pauses, letting the words sink in. But what you can make sure he sees is this, that his mother had a friend, and her name was Lisa, someone who stepped up and did the right thing. Lisa King makes her choice. She will cooperate. She will tell the truth.
Okay.
And that truth will lead police to exactly what they need: the gun. A few weeks after the interview with Lisa King, police finally get the news they've been waiting for. Daniel Zerbe is arrested in Auburn, Indiana, on an unrelated warrant. Officers find him in possession of methamphetamine. But far more importantly, they find a 9mm handgun on him. My deputies were able to move this case forward when Zerbe was arrested on an unrelated warrant and was found to be in possession of the gun used in the murder, Sheriff Landers explains. The gun is immediately sent to the BCI crime lab. Along with the firearm, detectives submit 2 additional pieces of evidence: the bullet recovered from Wilma Schwarz's body and the empty 9mm shell casing found inside Wilma's vehicle. Now, everything comes down to forensic science. Ballistics analysis is precise work. Every firearm leaves unique markings on the bullet. It fires grooves, scratches, microscopic characteristics that can't be faked. If the bullet recovered from Wilma's body matches the gun taken from Daniel Zerbe, it's proof he can't talk his way out of. Forensic examiners spend hours comparing every tiny detail. And then the results come back. It's a match. The lab was able to determine that the bullet recovered from Wilma Schwarz's body was fired from the 9mm handgun, along with the shell casing found inside the vehicle. Everything matched. The gun in Daniel Zerbe's possession is the same gun that killed Wilma Schwarz. That was really the smoking gun, the detective says. Now they have everything. They have motive, a toxic relationship fueled by drugs and violence. They have placement phone data putting Daniel at the scene on the day of the murder. They have surveillance showing Daniel abandoning Wilma's vehicle. They have a cooperating witness, Lisa King, who told the full story. And most importantly, they have the gun undeniable physical evidence. But detectives want one last thing. They want Lisa to identify the gun. They bring her back into the interrogation room one more time. This time, they have a piece of evidence to show her. The detective places a photograph on the table. It's a 9mm handgun. That gun, he says, the one in Auburn when they came and arrested him and you were there. That's the gun that killed her. Lisa looks at the photo. Her face goes pale. That's the same gun you remember him carrying every day in Auburn, right? She nods. That gun fired the bullet that came out of her head, and we can prove that. That's science. That's case closed on that part. With all the evidence in place, Daniel Zerbe is charged with murder in May 2016. He's being held in Allen County, Indiana, on methamphetamine-related charges, and is now awaiting extradition to Paulding County, Ohio, to stand trial for murder. Detectives try to interview Daniel. They want to hear his version of events. They want to know why he shot and killed the mother of his child. But Daniel Zerbe doesn't say a word. When detectives attempted to interview Daniel Zerbe, unfortunately, he chose not to speak with us. He requested his attorney, and the interview was terminated.
What'd he say? How'd he say, come pick me up, meet?
Yeah, he said, come get me and make this tires in front of me in his car and possibly put it in.
All right.
That's what I mean. He's like, Fort Wayne. Just look at it. All right. And then I asked the clerk if we could park the car there. She said, yes, and I said, what the block in the hallway. Pulled it right next to him, and he grabbed his little bitty black bag that he carries all the time wherever he goes. And we just both got in the truck.
Okay.
Went up there and looked around.
Where'd you guys went?
That was unfortunate for us, because we still had many questions we wanted to ask him, in hopes of bringing closure to the investigation, not just for law enforcement, but for Wilma's family as well.
The guy went to work.
There's no confession, no apology, no explanation. Daniel Zerbe chooses silence. But silence can't save him. The evidence is overwhelming. The forensic science is undeniable. The witness has spoken. The case against Daniel Zerbe is solid, and he knows it.
Hello.
Hey, honey.
What are we doing?
Nothing. Waiting on my sister to come get her baby.
Hey, I got 2 detectives with me.
Yeah.
We're investigating Wilma's death. We understand that you might know something about that.
Well, Daniel had called me and told me that he made a mess. He just kept saying she was gone.
Okay.
Now, I didn't understand half of his conversation. Whatever phone people are using up there is muffled and they go my fault.
Okay. But he told you she was gone. And that's when you called Leroy then?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you told him, yeah, you probably ought to call the police.
Well, I told him that.
So you were fearful that he probably something happened with Wilma.
Not only that, but I'm fearful for Daniel. I don't know what he's doing. Daniel was I wanted to know what the hell was going on. Where in the hell is Wilma?
At this point, that's all we have, but you can make the difference. You can make the difference to make some sort of... If nothing else comes of this, he's going to come to our office one day and he's going to say, I want to see records of my mom. And you know what he's going to see, and I've got them here, but I'm not going to show you. They're too graphic. They're gruesome. He's going to see pictures of his mom thrown away like trash.
But what he can see is that his right.
At this point, that's all we have, but you can make the difference. That gun, the gun in Auburn, when they came and arrested him, and you were there, that's the gun that killed her. That's the gun that killed her.
Is that the same gun that you saw in Auburn that you recall him carrying on a daily basis?
Bullet that fell out of her head.
And we can show that by
That's done.
science. Right.
That's done. That's case closed on that.
In November 2017, more than a year and a half after Wilma Schwarz was killed, Daniel Zerbe, 44 years old, pleads guilty to murder. As part of a plea agreement, the weapons charge is dropped. He is sentenced to 15 years to life in prison, with credit for time already served. At sentencing, Daniel finally speaks. I'm just sorry for everything that happened, he says. I loved Wilma. Those words too little, too late. Lisa King, who cooperated with police, was initially charged with 2 counts of evidence tampering in this case. Those charges were later dismissed due to her cooperation with the investigation. Daniel Zerbe is currently incarcerated at the Chillicothe Correctional Institution in Ross County, Ohio. Prison records show he will be eligible for parole in 2032. But for Wilma Schwarz's family, no sentence can bring back the woman they loved. Based on all the evidence we gathered from Ohio and Indiana, the detective explains, my best guess is that Daniel Zerbe still held resentment toward Wilma. Wilma had grown stronger after being away from Daniel, so she stood up for herself a little more, and I believe Daniel wanted Wilma out of his life. Wilma Schwarz never got the chance to see her son grow up. She never got to meet the grandchildren she might have had. She never got to live the life she deserved. That's a sad legacy, a family member says. She didn't get to be part of her children's lives or her grandchildren's lives. The saddest part of this story is Benjamin Wilma's young son. The saddest part, I believe, is the children who have to live with it, the detective says. Her youngest son was left at school. That's even harder for him. He didn't know why his mom didn't come to pick him up. I can only imagine the thoughts and the pain that went through that little boy's mind, and still do to this day. But at least, the family got justice. Getting a conviction against Daniel Zerbe gives me a lot of satisfaction, the detective says. Being able to bring Wilma Schwarz and her family the justice she deserved. Sometimes we can't prove cases with everything, and all the work that everyone put into this case is what helped us reach this outcome. It was a good feeling, a family member says, the day we learned that the sheriff's office had definitively determined that Dan was the one who killed Wilma, to have closure about who did it, what happened overall, and how it happened. Justice was served, but the pain remains. The Wilma Schwarz case reminds us of a dark truth. Sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from strangers on the street. It comes from the people closest to us. Daniel Zerbe and Wilma Schwarz shared a child together. They shared years of their lives. But when a toxic relationship turns violent, it can end in tragedy. Wilma tried to get out. She grew stronger, stood up for herself more. But to Daniel, that wasn't acceptable. And on a day in March 2016, he made a decision he could never take back. He pulled out a gun and ended the life of the mother of his son. But thanks to the dedicated work of the Paulding County Sheriff's Office, BCI, and law enforcement agencies across Ohio and Indiana, Daniel Zerbe was held accountable. Forensic science spoke the truth. A witness spoke up. Justice prevailed. Wilma Schwarz deserved more than this. She deserved to live. She deserved to watch her son grow up. But at the very least, she received justice. And her family, especially Benjamin, can know that the man who took his mother's life is now behind bars, where he belongs. This is the story of Wilma Schwarz, a mother, a woman, a victim. But it's also a story about justice, persistence, and the power of truth. No matter where you try to bury it, the truth always finds a way to rise to the surface. Thank you for following the story of the Wilma Schwarz case with us. If you found this video helpful and want to see more real cases from U.S. law enforcement, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. One like from you helps us tremendously in bringing these stories to more people. And leave a comment below to let us know what you think about this case. What do you believe drove Daniel Zerbe to commit such a horrific act? And do you think a sentence of 15 years to life is fair? Once again, thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next video.